So John Hallinan, thumbs up to get started. All right. Good evening or good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, June 22nd, 2020. This is the Municipal Caucus. We had a scheduled 4 p.m. start. And the clock on my computer is showing 4:09. Before I take roll call, in an effort to adhere to social distancing protocols and best practices imposed by the city and state authorities, the City of Jersey City has canceled all public meetings and closed non-essential services as of March 16, 2020 until further notice. As a result, this council caucus will be held virtually as a video conference with public access. So for the commencement of this virtual caucus, may I have a roll call for the commencement? Councilperson Ridley.
Here.
Councilperson Prinzeri.
Here.
Thank you. Councilperson Baggiano.
Here.
We're just having some technical difficulties with his screen. Well, we'll get him in there.
That's all right. You can leave me frozen.
All right. And Councilperson Soleil will be joining us, I believe. Councilperson Solomon.
Here.
Thank you. Councilperson Robinson will be joining us shortly. Councilperson Lavaro.
Here.
Thank you. Councilperson Rivera.
Here.
And Council President Waterman.
Here.
Okay, we have 7 members in attendance at 4:09 p.m. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Thursday, June 18th, 2020 at 3 p.m. to the mayor, council, business administrator, and Jersey City Reporter and the Jersey Journal, and posted on the World Wide Web, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Council President, is it your wishes that I take it from the top, or are we going to move around? Okay, very good. Alrighty, so coming right from the top, moving on to our first reading ordinances. We have 8 of them. First one is item 3.1, City Ordinance 20-048, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a deed of an easement with COA 99 Hudson LLC, 99 Hudson Condominium Association, the Planning Board of the City of Jersey City, and the City of Jersey City affecting Block 14507, Lot 1, also known as 99 Hudson Street and 100 Green Street. Any questions or comments on item 3.1? Okay.
Could someone speak to this and just,
Okay.
could someone speak to this and just explain what's?
Yeah, so this is Matt Ward from City Planning. I'm here to discuss it. This is one of the requirements of their approval and one of the requirements of their zoning. If you look at the first paragraph, kind of describes the project, and then the third whereas describes the requirement that they're meeting. So they had to dedicate an average of 15% of the total property towards space.
Sorry, I lost you there. Say it again.
There's 2 categories of the open space approval: the total accessible and the limited open space. In this ordinance,
You're breaking up, Matt.
Yeah, if you can hear us, Matt, now he's frozen.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt. Try it again.
I'm going to turn off my video. Is that okay?
You can, yes.
That's fine.
Hopefully this helps. In the ordinance, there is an attached deed of easement with a map showing these open space plazas that were required in their approval. We've worked with Ray Reddington, the counsel of the for the developer for 99 Hudson, and We've submitted these for your review. These have met our approval, and so we are submitting them to you for review and approval.
Okay, so these are required as within their.
Yeah. So the best or the ordinance is a lot of boilerplate language, and I believe that Councilman Solomon has been discussed, has been briefed on this and is giving some comments. And there are maps towards the end of that deed of easement that better outline these easement areas.
Questions?
So the area that is largely public or open to the public, it's still privately maintained, and
that's right. And that's right. And there's language that's in the deed of easement that speaks to that. I'm not sure exactly what paragraph it is at the moment. This was some time ago I was working on this, but
so is that area that's largely public, but still privately owned? Who determines the public use of that if like something wanted to be used for some activity, public activity of some sort?
again,
I'm sorry, I can't hear any of that.
Matt, you're breaking up a little bit. If just a point of order, if you're not speaking yet, if you can just turn off your cameras and mute your mics, I think that would help us. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Matt, if you can do that again.
Okay, sorry.
Please don't apologize. I don't really know if it's you or us, or it could be the internet.
I don't know if I'm best equipped to answer that question quickly. This is more, that's a question more Ray Reddington's realm of knowledge. There is a schedule of prohibited and restricted plaza activities, Exhibit C, toward the very end of the deed of easement. That might be a quick list of these types of prohibited or restricted activities. And then as far as getting permission to hold an event there, it is still private property. This is, you know, for, I think, just more informal enjoyment, sitting at a bench, sitting, you know, crossing through at the diagonal through these plazas, which is, you know, a large city block. So it's kind of the way that a lot of the other plazas work. One being maybe the one at Green Hook Restaurant, that speaks to the limited access public plaza, the one that is allowed for more commercial engagement for the retail that's adjacent to it. And thinking of some of your other plazas throughout for just normal sitting, lounging, walking through are the other areas.
If people are asking questions, you guys are all on mute.
Mute, right. Rolando, you on mute.
My apologies. So for that Exhibit C, who determined that? Is that planning or the developer who determined the prohibited and restricted activities?
If I remember correctly, it went back and forth between the developer, Solomon, Reddington, and city planning may have had some comments too. These are, you know, I think a lot of them.
So the second to last bullet in that says organized activities without the specific written consent of the developer. So what does that, I mean, what does that process look like? for the general public if somebody wanted to do an organized activity within
No,
the plaza?
I think that's a question for the owner. I'm not sure if they're necessarily here tonight. I know the council is Connell Foley. I don't know how the caucus works on trying to get. I don't know if they were reached out to. I can see if they're available.
If we
for the
could, I would
question.
like to see that question get answered. It's, I mean, we've had already the conversations in previous meetings about the exchange place, and while this is a public space, and this is not a public space, this is privately owned, right? So the developer and the private owner have have determined what goes on there essentially at that level. At the same time, we want it to be as open as and free of discrimination and bias of any sort to ensure that if there are public events, that it's not simply kind of well, I'll just say that it's not discriminating against any group. So people have brought it up before, the idea that when the Exchange Place Alliance and everything else happened over there with regard to development, I know that or businesses in that area that they would cordon off and yellow tape the area around that area when for example the West Indian parade came down, or the Puerto Rican Day parade came down, or to that effect, and they put out some yellow tape around different areas of the surrounding neighborhood to prevent folks from kind of accessing what were seemingly public spaces but privately owned. And so, but you wouldn't see that if the LGBT event was down there, or an Indian event or something to that effect was down there. So we want to make sure that there's just equal access and fair treatment under the law and that stuff. And so I'd like to know what how that process is of organized activities, and how transparent that information will be to us, so that we know that people are able to, from all parts of the community throughout Jersey City, will have access to be able to apply for organized activities in this area.
Councilman, to the extent that it's helpful, I would just direct it to page 8 of 20 in paragraphs 7, 8, and 9 regarding signage, public access, and rules that I think outline, at least may answer some of your questions. I would certainly, if there's any additional questions, I'd be happy to forward it along to the attorney for the developer. But the public access in paragraph 8, I think, outlines what the scope of the public access is going to be.
I get it. I see that. I'll review this a lot more closely, and if you can provide me with, if you think there's ways to, and I without having done a very stringent review of this language, if the law department could provide us language to ensure that, again, that we're not allowing for any potential discriminations. I'm not suggesting that this developer or is looking to do that per se, but would certainly want to ensure that that's not the case, and that there were any loopholes around that potentially could be averted.
Okay.
Can the law department do that?
Council, we'll certainly take a look at it, but what's envisioned in paragraph 8, as it maintains as private property and there's public access as an easement, I think it outlines pretty clearly. I don't think this is envisioned as a space where any member of the public is going to congregate as far as a rally or a large event of that nature. It's designed to be passive space for egress and ingress, as defined. It will be maintained as private space. It's not public space. It is a public easement on private property. To the extent you have questions beyond that, we're happy to answer them. But I think that part of the agreement is relatively clear. But I'd be happy to answer any further questions or pass them along to the Developers Council for the extent you have questions beyond that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Sean,
Yes.
next
Okay.
one.
Next item is item 3.2, City Ordinance 20-049, amendments to Chapter 345-16 and 345-33 of the Land Development Ordinance in response to COVID-19 regarding temporary removal of thresholds for minor site plan review.
This one's me again, Matt Ward from City Planning. So City Planning was taking a look at our the land development ordinance and seeing if there's opportunity to provide some perhaps financial or economic relief for during these uncertain times. So we took a look at the minor site plan thresholds and came up with this ordinance for your consideration. On May 19th, the planning board recommended approval. And if you scroll to the end, there's the proposed amendment language. And essentially what it's doing is creating a time period 1 year out from when the orders are lifted as far as the public emergency, state of emergency. And what we're declaring is that we're trying to eliminate some of these minor site plan thresholds with regards to conforming signage and redevelopment plan renovations to existing.
You broke up again there.
You're breaking up again, Matt. Maybe try muting your camera again. There you go.
Granting relief from is the conforming signage and redevelopment plan areas, alterations and renovations.
Breaking up again, Matt.
Can we just write the concerns and send him an email, or, because it looks like he's having some serious trouble.
Yeah, we you know what? We'll also have Matt send a summary of this one as well to the group through email.
Brian, can you speak to this a little bit?
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
That's better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm like walking and I'm like right next to my Wi-Fi now.
Yeah.
All right.
That's perfect, Matt.
So
Excellent.
sorry about that. Let me just pull this up and okay. So the point of this is to provide timed relief or removal of thresholds for projects with conforming signage, projects that are alterations or renovations to existing storefronts, and interim use signs or like leasing banners for a certain amount of time. And we kind of lay out some of the standards for those interim signs. And the point of this is to try to prevent or eliminate the chance for catching some of these smaller applications that have to go then to a land use board, reducing, timing for some of these businesses to get up and running, for projects that are just about finished with construction to start leasing up. It's just trying to eliminate delay. In historic districts and landmark buildings, we are still requiring that the certificate of no effect and or certificate of appropriateness review happen, but in other instances, it's this elimination for a set amount of time.
Any other
Matt,
questions?
what prompted this ordinance to?
COVID-19.
I mean, is there a specific situation or things that
No.
came up that, can you give us some specific examples that may,
For a project that submits for a sign, if they have a conforming sign in a redevelopment plan area, they have to submit an application to the planning board. That in and of itself is a $300 application for a sign. And if it's a business, they need to be represented by an attorney. And I don't know what attorney charges by the hour, but I assume that's a couple $1,000, all to get a sign that's conforming. So that's in our ordinance now, but during these times when it might be a little bit harder for small businesses to open up and survive, we're seeing if there is an opportunity to release some of those economic burdens that might otherwise exist and otherwise might be needed to, with the purposes of zoning and the goals of zoning.
Okay.
That's essentially what prompted it.
Any other
Okay.
questions?
Any other concerns? No other questions? We can move on. Sean?
Before I do, I just wanted to mark Councilperson Soleil present at 4:16 p.m. and Councilperson Robinson at 4:20 p.m. So we have a full house. All 9 council members are present. Moving on to our next item, item 3.3, City Ordinance 20.
Sean,
Yeah.
this is Brian. The Ordinance 20-050 needs to be withdrawn. This was our administrative mistake. It needs to go to Planning Board first. So this will come back for first reading, likely at the July 15th meeting.
Okay, very good. So the next item then will be item 3.4, City Ordinance 20-051, an ordinance ratifying the approval of, number 1, the sale of a 114-unit project-based Section 8 family housing development to Van Wagen 2 Urban Renewal LLC pursuant to the Limited Dividend Nonprofit Housing Corporations or Associations Law, NJSA 55:16-1 exec. And number 2, the transfer and assignment of the project's tax exemption.
Any questions on it?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Matt Karenberg. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Dakotas, Fitzpatrick, Cole & Giblin, and we represent the Hudson Valley Property Group, and they're the purchaser of this particular property as well as some others. Before I get started, I just want to thank you all for taking the time, and I also want to specifically thank Bernadette for helping us all get here today. It was a tremendous amount of patience on her part, and she's much nicer than she needed to be. With me from the Hudson Valley Property Group is Jason Bordanik, Andy Cavaluzzi, Chris Schilling, and Alexis Coleman. They're all here on the call to the extent that there are any questions. Hudson Valley Property Group is acquiring a portfolio of affordable housing projects. 4 of those projects are located here in Jersey City. They are what we call Van Wagenen 1, Van Wagenen 2, Bergen Manor, and Kennedy Manor. 3 of those 4 projects currently have financial agreements. That all but Van Wagenen 1 currently have existing financial agreements. So before you tonight are 3 ordinances authorizing the consent of the city to the transfer from the current owner to the urban renewal entity set up by the Hudson Valley Property Group and to the assignment of the existing financial agreements. With that, I'll turn it over to one of the HVPG members, and they can give you a little bit of background about who they are and how excited they are to be here in Jersey City.
What's the addresses on Van Wagenen?
I'd have to go back and look on the agenda off the top of my head. Van Wagenen's, because it's got like 12 different addresses, I think, because it's a series of buildings.
Sorry,
The
that's
second whereas has it
115,
all.
117, 123 to 125, 127, 129, and 133 Van Wagen Avenue. And then 882 Pavonia Avenue. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Thank you, Councilperson Soleil.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for having us. This is Jason Bordanik. I'm co-founder, managing partner at Hudson Valley Property Group, and also thanks to Bernadette to getting us through the technical difficulties to be here. I appreciate everyone's willingness to work through this and use various forms of technology to kind of keep these things moving forward. So I'll give a little bit of background on Hudson Valley, and then my partner Andy can go through more of the project specifics and some of the things and the improvements that we're planning to do here. But a little bit of a background on Hudson Valley. We're a real estate firm based in New York City, and we are focused exclusively on the acquisition and preservation of quality, affordable housing. We do work throughout the tri-state area, with New Jersey actually being the state that has the most of our projects. And we really pride ourselves on the quality of work and the improvements that we make, and ensuring that these are homes that stay affordable, and stay and get to a level of a standard that is better than what's there today and stays there as quality housing for the future. We are currently in contract on the acquisition of 5 properties, 4 of which are in Jersey City. The 5th is actually in Newark, and it's a family that owns these properties, and they're exiting, looking to retire and exiting from the business. And these are properties that are at risk of potentially, kind of ceasing to be affordable housing. They're going to be expiring out. So we're going to be ensuring that the residents aren't displaced and they could stay as affordable housing, and extend the regulatory agreements, far into the future to ensure that is the case, not just for today, but for the future. So 4 of the properties are in Jersey City, 3 of which, as Matt mentioned, have existing pilots, and we are looking to assume the existing pilots, and it's something that's needed as part of the financing. And the financing is going to be, a Fannie Mae debt together with capital from our preservation fund, and it's equity that is designed, with a social mission to ensure there's, quality affordable housing with the work we're doing. And Andy, I think would probably be best to kind of give more specifics of really some of the, of how we're really, taking this to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Jason. And I am Andy Cavaluzzi, also a co-founder and partner here at Hudson Valley Property Group. And like Jason said, we are very excited coming into Jersey City and being able to do some of the work that we, have become experts on performing. So these projects, which are great structures and all have some great architectural detail inside and out, but they really, have been past their useful life and certainly need some upgrading to them. And so that's what we plan to take on. And so in the interior of these properties, we are going to be changing out all of the elevators. As you know, or if you've been in these properties, there are quite a few. So within these, we have about 15 elevators that will have to be changed out. We are also going to be changing out all of the boilers and hot water heaters. Another large CapEx project getting done, which usually, you don't think of, as something that is one of the primary focuses, but it fits within making sure that residents, will have a nice home, one that, has the insulation to make sure their heat stays in, or that the heat doesn't come in and the cool is there. We're changing out all of the roofing and insulation behind or underneath the roofing. We are going to be changing out all of the lighting in the common areas, putting in new fixtures, which are aesthetically pleasing, but also will be LED lighting. So will be brighter, will last longer. In the common areas, we are also going to be replacing all of the flooring, making sure that we paint all the common areas. The railings themselves, have been painted over many, many times throughout the years. So we'll be stripping those down and then be putting a new finish on those. The buildings themselves, when you are entering them, they currently have almost like a schoolhouse feeling, like an old schoolhouse feeling of the 60s and 70s or older, where you're walking into just an unattractive steel door, that you're then entering through, which you're entering into a beautiful, lobby that needs to be refurbished and refinished. But the doors that you're walking into right now are something that we are going to be taking out. So we call those the storefronts. So all the storefronts at these properties are going to be changed out as well. So those will be removed. Something that is more secure, something that is, again, that is aesthetically pleasing and looks good will be put in its place. changing out all of the access controls. That will be done as well, along with security cameras being placed, and working with our security group, who we typically work with, who handles the monitoring of all of our cameras. So the cameras themselves are, high def, night vision, and are able then to be accessed at any point in all points. We'd be happy then to also share some of these links with, or share the links to it and the IP address with local PD, so they can make sure they have that. The exteriors of the properties will all benefit from new LED lighting, just to substantially change the outdoor visibility of these properties and the effects of the lighting. The fire escapes at all of these properties are worn, and so we will be making repairs, but also refinishing all of the fire escapes. So there will be something now when you are outside walking by, the aesthetics of the property will change there too. So not just the actual storefront and entryway, but now the fire escapes, which become a prominent feature of these buildings. And then some of the buildings benefit from outdoor landscaping, which is viewed by the public, which is fantastic. So Van Wagenen 1, Van Wagenen 2, there's that center courtyard. So we will be re-landscaping those, adding new park benches as well. So that will make quite a difference there. Inside in the interiors of the units, we are going to be changing out all of the water fixtures. So you'll have new toilets, you have new shower heads, you'll have new aerators and fixtures. So there's quite a bit there that has to get done. That's throughout the property. And then aside from that, what we do right before close is go in and complete our second 100% walkthrough. So we'll be able to see all the units and make sure that if there's any deferred maintenance in the interiors, that we are able to address that. And aside from that deferred maintenance, then be able to put everything on a cycle schedule to understand that when painting has to get done or when new cabinetry or flooring has to get done throughout our whole period of ownership. So we have a very comprehensive plan. We are very excited to be here. This is something that we have taken on many times in the past and have great results. We're coming in, it's not just a flash in the pan. We're here for the long run and during our time to make sure that we have excellent properties.
Jason, can I just have your last name and can you spell it for me slowly, please?
You said for Jason?
Yes.
Okay, it's Bordanic, and it's B as in boy, O-R, D as in David, A-I-N-I-C-K.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Remember, council members, we are touching on all three first reading ordinances. So that's items 3.4 through 3.6.
Can you provide us with the term of the existing tax abatements and when they expire for each of the different properties involved? And
yes, this is Matt Karenberg. The Bergen and Manor and Kennedy Manor were entered into 1978, and Van Wagenen 2 was entered into in 1981. Their terms are 40 years from the date of completion of the project, which I don't have the exact COs of offhand on me, but I do believe that Kennedy and Bergen Manor have probably less than 2 years left, and Van Wagenen 2 has, I think, about less than 5 years remaining on the existing pilot, those were adopted under the old limited dividend law.
Okay. And so upon expiration in 2 years or so, thereabouts, for the gentleman from HVPG, it's your intention to, with these renovations, to renew them, right? I would assume are you looking to renew the tax abatements or to not renew, reapply, apply for new tax abatements with the improvements at that point?
We were in extensive discussions with the city to do just that and actually enter into new arrangements on a going forward basis. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic as well as some other issues, it was a little too difficult to get that all wrapped up in time for the closing. And so therefore the Hudson Valley Property Group, eager to purchase the properties, was willing to just work off of this assignment and with the expectation and the hope that maybe at some point in time in the future, when things maybe get back to normal, would be, an opportune time to sit with the city again and discuss, expanding these. Obviously, they're for affordable housing projects, so all that passes really along to the benefit of property owners, as well as just making the projects more viable on an ongoing basis.
So do you have an understanding with the, I'm assuming, I mean, you wouldn't undertake a closing and putting your dollars at risk if you didn't think that you were going to be able to get a renewed tax abatement moving forward with the substantial cost of renovations.
Yeah, Councilman, in terms of an understanding, as well as anybody, there's no understanding until it passes this body. So I can't say that we have a formal understanding. It was simply a matter of negotiations that gotten to a certain point. This pandemic hit, that lots of stones were rolling downhill. So I think, the client obviously wants to be here in Jersey City. They believe in these projects, and they think that, when things get back to normal, the administration will be open to further discussions.
I have a question. We've done these transfers a few times, but the transfer usually comes with the tax abatement, because next year, right, 40 years from now, this is going to be off the books as affordable housing. Why is it that we're applying right now? I know you said you had the conversation, but I think that trying to keep the affordable housing that we have in place, we should probably be working hand to hand to make these go together. The transfer and the affordable housing, the tax abatement. And if we're going to use any tax abatements right now, I think this is one of the things that we should be using the tax abatements for, to make sure that we keep the affordable housing that we have on the books, because I understand you're doing toilets and bathrooms, you're doing everything over, but next year we're going to be off the affordable housing. What promise or what guarantee do we have as a city that we're letting this transfer happen and we may be losing our affordable housing next year? And I'm for one, I don't know what the council person from the area thinks, but I'm for one is very for keeping the affordable housing that we already have on the books.
Sure. First, I'll let the HV folks, Hudson Valley folks, talk about the future, but you're preaching to the choir in terms of wanting a long-term financial agreement. We thought we were somewhat close. Again, this kind of just threw everything through a curveball. So we're hoping to revisit that and to continue to have a new 20 to 30 year commitment, of which, the Hudson Valley folks would obviously commit to maintaining that as affordable housing. I mean, this is what they do. It's who they are. And I'll turn it over to you guys.
Yeah, no, I'll like you. I totally agree with your, we would love to have a full new pilot. I think, given the situation, the feedback we had received, we have a timeline in the contract to get it closed. And so we were advised that it wasn't going to be practical to obtain that, but we would love to. This doesn't change our plans with the property. But we're totally supportive of and would love to have the extension. But I think right now, in order to not lose the opportunity to preserve it, we will need to close on this in the next couple of months. And this was presented as the best option we had to do that right now. Was to start by assuming what's there and then revisit the extension at another point. So there's no plan from us to not maintain these as affordable housing.
I mean, I get it. I understand you guys are putting a lot of investment here, new elevators, new bathrooms, new shower heads, toilets. I heard all of that. I just want to make sure that when we are putting the new stuff in place, that we are thinking about the people that live there, because This is Journal Square, right? This is the next best thing, right? From downtown to Journal Square, and it's going to be a lot of people looking for, apartments in that area. And I just want to make sure that we do keep the affordable housing in place, and that we're looking to do that long term for the future. We don't have a lot of affordable housing units. I mean, Van Wagenen has been there for a long time. I had friends, family, everyone stay there, but we want to make sure that we're looking long term with this, and you're not just putting elevators in, and we don't maintain the affordability down there.
Yeah, no, totally understood, and we agree, and that's our plan here. And I would say the other thing that will give you comfort is we're going to be obtaining new 20-year HAP contracts, which is the project-based Section 8, as part of the project, which will basically ensure that for the next 20 years, the residents who live there, it's restricted, I believe, to 60% AMI or lower. So it's going to stay affordable through the Section 8 HAP contract, in addition to our plans.
Can that work without a tax abatement, or do they need to be working simultaneously?
Well, we need the HAP contract could remain at the property. The abatement at closing is definitely needed to support the financing to make all the improvements, and that's why we're assuming. But yeah, I mean, we would. It sounds like you're in support of preserving the affordability. We're totally on the same goals here as you do for the property. I don't know if Andy, you want to add anything?
Yeah, and just, I mean, this work that we're talking about too, it then allows these properties that we're preserving, as affordable by preserving their rent structure. It's something then that we're ensuring the properties don't become blighted. They're properties that then stay up with current times. They're still operated well, that still run well, maintained well. Not just let it go, and not just have a existing HAP contract and just let the properties themselves just either one fall into disrepair, or two, get in the hands of somebody else who would then get rid of the idea of affordable housing. No, I mean that's our mission. That's what we do. This is what our group is about. It's what we've always been about. We've never come in and just worked on moving people out and taking something to market or doing something of that nature. So I think our mission and what our goals and what our ethos are really in line with what you're saying. So I think it's going to be a great long-term partnership.
So yeah, I just want to add to that. This is Chris Schilling from Hudson Valley. I wanted to address the councilman's concern. So the HUD contracts have been in place on this contract or on these properties since the late 70s and early 80s. So we're essentially extending those income restrictions for the units that have been in place this whole time. So the terms of the HAP contracts will, like Jason said, continue for the next 20 years, ensuring that the income limitations for the tenants remain in place. The pilot would have helped us with capital plans and renovation plans going forward, but we're still trying to make that work. But we are legally committed to keeping these affordable while the 20-year HAP contracts are in place.
Those contracts are, when do you expect to close on those HAP contracts?
The HAP contracts will be in effect when we close on the properties, which we hope to be in early September.
And just for my edification, those contracts require you to keep them affordable, or what do they?
So there's a use agreement that is associated with those contracts, and we are required to only rent those to tenants who qualify at the income restrictions, and I think it's 50 and 60% of AMI. So the new tenants that qualify have to have income below a certain threshold, which it probably is in the range of probably in the $40,000 for a family of four. New tenants can remain in place as if they earn a little bit more, but the units that open up must be rented to income qualifying tenants, and they are required to pay 30% of their income towards the rent, and then HUD covers the rest, the difference in the rent.
Yeah, no more than 30%. Yeah, so it's a really great setup, to ensure people have affordable housing.
And that is great. If I could just jump in there on that. So, but if you don't get a tax abatement and you don't have a deed restriction or whatever that artificially deflates the assessed value of the property so that you're paying less taxes or whatever the case might be, and as a result, if you don't have that, then those tenants will pay 30% of the rent at 50 to 60% AMI. And then the balance will be paid by HUD. But if their market rate rents, ultimately because they don't have a tax abatement that requires a lesser rent as a result, then you could be getting extraordinarily high returns from or monies from HUD as a result of that, to cover the other 70%. What I'm saying is, like, a one bedroom could end up being, we lament this all the time, right? A one bedroom could end up, even at 50%, 60% AMI, could end up at 12 to 1,300, where somebody's maybe paying $400 to $500 as their portion, and then HUD covering the rest of it. But because if there's no tax abatement and there's no requirement for it to be affordable necessarily, then you would be looking to market rate potential rents and looking for the balance of it to come from HUD. Is that accurate, or?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any further restrictions that Matt, I'm not aware of any further restrictions that the pilot is putting on the rent.
Jason, just to answer the councilman's question, obviously they have contracts. They do extend for 20 years. Certainly, I guess they technically could be terminated as well. One of the things that we were looking for initially that we have right now with the assignment, but that we would very much like to continue the discussion, is having a contractual arrangement with the city of Jersey City that extends beyond 2 to 3, 4 years regarding keeping these projects affordable housing in accordance with those rules, and having a pilot attached to that. I mean, that's the one thing that would ensure affordability throughout the term. We've offered an increase. Part of the discussion and negotiation where we were was actually to pay a higher percentage of pilot amount than we're paying today under these existing agreements. And like I said, unfortunately, smack right dab in the middle of our negotiations, hit the coronavirus. It became sort of difficult technically, as well as probably for other reasons, to negotiate the exact terms and to communicate well with the city, and the clock kept ticking. And so we're here. We need the approval in order to close. If we don't close, we're subject to variety sort of damages with the current owner if we don't meet the timeframes. And we just weren't able to get it done. But we would love to, the moment this call is over, restart that dialogue with the city and be in front of the city to make that commitment long term.
All right, can we move on?
Okay.
I have one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have one final statement, and it's not a question. You don't have to respond to it to the HDP group, but for the record, that a tax abatement. Fair enough, the COVID hit the entire city as a result. I can understand that, put that some delays there. But the bottom line is that for a tax abatement, just for everyone's edification here, that the governing body is the final authority on that. Whether, and as Councilman Robinson expressed, and I'm sure you already know from my statements as well, but if it was unclear, I'm also supportive of preservation, and so I would like to see the preservation of affordable housing. And so if you were to submit a tax amendment, that'd be most welcome to ensure that the preservation. You can do that even without administration approval, and the council can consider it and hear that. And we've had that happen in the past as well. And I would encourage you to do that as well, because with 2 years left or less on your tax abatement as it currently stands and the affordability restrictions that come with that, you're going to be in a bind. And I think we all want the same thing here at the end of the day.
Okay.
Appreciate that,
Thank
Councilman.
you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, thank you. So that takes care of items 3.4 through 3.6. On to item 3.7, City Ordinance 20-054. It's an ordinance repealing Chapter 296, Streets and Sidewalks of the Jersey City Municipal Code in its entirety and adopting a new version. So we have my Deputy City Clerk, John Hallen, in here to answer any questions on this because he wrote this ordinance.
Any questions, anyone?
Just a statement, Council
Go
President.
ahead.
John, I'm going to forward over to you the memo that I was sent by Andrew Vicio relating to the changes to the barricade manual. If you could review that in relation to this chapter, and if we could discuss that again, this goes to the idea that of ensuring that the council has approval, the final approval ultimately on any sort of changes to any of the traffic conditions and so forth that may change any of the traffic conditions, whether it be with regard to establishing bike lanes, street closures, parking situations and so forth. And ultimately that come back before the city council ultimately. I'll forward that over to you after this this caucus.
That's fine. It maybe just be helpful at this moment if I just explain in just briefly why this chapter needed to be revised. So as you know, we were working on the traffic barricade manual, which is tied in with Chapter 296, which governs streets and sidewalks. Upon reviewing Chapter 296, it was very clear that over the years it had been amended and supplemented numerous times without kind of comprehensively reviewing the entire chapter, and it became sort of like a Frankenstein. You had different sub-articles with their own definition sections, and they weren't necessarily consistent with other definitions in other sections, even though they were defining the same term. So it just became a very complicated process to try and align everything. So administratively, we decided, well, let's just start over. We'll have one definition section at the very beginning of the chapter, which defines all the terms of the entire chapter, as opposed to having different subsections and different definitions in each one. There's one notable exception. The very last sub-article of this chapter deals with paid telephones in the public right-of-way. Believe it or not, there are about a half dozen of them still throughout the city, but I do anticipate that very shortly they will probably go the way of the dodo. I left that section intact largely, and all the definitions that pertain to that section in that section alone, because I figure it'd be very easy down the road when we have to amend it. Instead of having to realign everything and change definitions throughout, we would just chop the last section out and get rid of it. Other than that, it consolidates all the responsibilities of owners relative to sidewalk maintenance into one section, and it clarifies those responsibilities in a manner that's consistent with our most recent standards. Again, eliminated all the unnecessary subarticles, which were somewhat inconsistent with each other. All the definition sections, again, as I mentioned, are all now in the very beginning of the chapter, which I think aids for interpretation. You read all the definitions up front, and then everywhere else in the chapter you read that term, you already know what it means. And it'll made all the permitting procedures that are in here consistent with the most recent standards as promulgated by the Department of Traffic Engineering and Transportation. And the important section in this chapter, which as it relates to the traffic control manual, is Chapter 296-2.12, which incorporates the traffic barricade manual by reference into this document, and thereby making a violation of the standards set forth in the manual an ordinance violation addressable in municipal court. So I know it is a large document, but it was correcting problems in an existing document that was also in and of itself very large. This has been the culmination of, at this point, 18 months worth of back and forth between different parties and different sections of the law department and different departments of the city. Council members Rivera and Bosciano and Prinzari have been very instrumental in getting this to the point where we are today. One final point I do want to point out: at the last meeting, the traffic control manual was introduced. It's set to become effective, presuming it's adopted at the next meeting, which is on Wednesday. The boilerplate there specifies that it's become effective September 1st, and this document specifies that it's become effective September 1st. And I wrote that in there because I knew that sometimes things happen, things get delayed, and we do live in crazy times. I wanted to leave there enough leeway that if something got delayed, it wouldn't push the whole thing back too far. Obviously, that's up to the council how they wish to adopt this. Ordinances tend to have to be at least 20 days before they become effective. That's by state law. It is possible to waive that 20-day period, but that requires a passage of a resolution declaring an emergency. As it stands right now, the traffic barricade manual, should it get adopted on Wednesday, the 20-day period would be about July 14th if you wish to amend it so it doesn't become effective on September 1st. This chapter, which again, they are all kind of intertwined with one another, would be introduced on the 24th, and it would become effective, assuming it's adopted, after the 15th. If you want to waive that 20-day restriction and you want to amend it so it doesn't become effective September 1st, that would allow both documents to become effective on July 16th.
Okay.
I can't stress enough, though, they really need to go together.
Together, yeah.
So, however you want to do that.
Yeah. Questions?
Let's move on.
Any questions? Anybody? Okay,
Thanks, John.
thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Okay, next item is item 3.8, City Ordinance 20-055. It's an ordinance authorizing the execution of 2 deeds of easement by and between 100 Hoboken Avenue Partners LLC and North LLC and the City of Jersey City, affecting Block 6001, Lot 40, and Lot 10, also known as 100 Hoboken Avenue and 110 Hoboken Avenue. Any questions? Hearing none.
Go ahead,
Moving on to our second reading ordinances, item 4.1. City Ordinance 20-041 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 332-9, stop intersections, multi-way stops at various intersections in wards E and F, and Article 3, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, Section 332-29.1.c, Electric Vehicle Charging Areas. Any questions? Hearing none. Next one, item 4.2, City Ordinance 20-042 is an ordinance consenting to the transfer and assignment of the property and tax exemption held by 720-726 Bergen Avenue Urban Renewal LLC to 280 Fairmont Urban Renewal LLC pursuant to Section 9.1 of the financial agreement and NJSA 40A:20-22 of the long-term tax exemption law.
Clerk,
Yes.
I'm sorry, are we supposed to vote on 4.1?
No. This is the caucus, so we're just going over this for any
Oh
questions.
my goodness, you're right, you're right. I'm thinking I'm at the council meeting.
It's okay.
We know you've been partying all weekend.
Oh, weekend.
It was Father's Day. He's allowed. He's allowed.
I'm only teasing. I'm only teasing.
His screen went crazy.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So there was the information we received regarding this property. There were multiple notices of non-compliance or violations of the abatement, and then there was one advisory notice suggesting that that was being withdrawn. That withdrawal came in August of 2017. If my information is correct, August 23rd, 2017. The then director of tax abatement compliance wrote an email suggesting he's decided to withdraw after his advisory notice against this project. And his advisory notices of July 14th, 2017, August 2nd, 2017, August 14th, 2017. And then subsequently after that, there's a May 2018 not in compliance advisory notice again, which follows his withdrawal initially, his withdrawal at that time. So at that point, they're in non-compliance. And then there's a final report, I guess, and that suggests they're in compliance for the quarter, although it doesn't suggest that they were in compliance or that they I'm trying to find the right word, ameliorated the situation with the May 22nd, 2018 notice. Typically, there would be also like a overall closure of the entire project, since this project has been done since, I'm assuming, sometime in 2018, I believe was the timing. I don't recall. There's no complete report. I would still like to see, and maybe I've missed it, but if somebody else has that, or if you've received that, a report of the overall entire project and the overall compliance from quarter to quarter and the reports around that. But from my part, I see a May 22nd, 2018 report that suggests non-compliance and no subsequent withdrawal of that advisory notice on that in that regard.
So one of the Eugene is on the line as well, but I just will say before Eugene continues representing the property owners here, the last correspondence from the previous director of abatement and compliance, Pierre, did indicate that the project was back in compliance for both of the outstanding issues. Obviously, Pierre doesn't work here anymore, so we can't confirm that with him. And unfortunately, some of the records that we have on our files for not just this project, but from some other projects as well, aren't full of all of the documents we would like. So, but this is everything that we have, and from our record, it is, or it was, in compliance at the end.
You said Pierre considered it to be in compliance?
You on mute?
You're on mute, Brian.
Sorry about that. The documents that I sent indicated 1 default notice and 2 advisory notices. There was 1 email withdrawing there was the last communication from Pierre on the project was indicating that the project was back in compliance for everything. And that was in the file as a record indicating that's in compliance at the end.
That's in August of 2017. I just want to make sure I'm on the same page with you. So I'm looking at in August 2017. I'm happy to share the screen on that. May I share my screen?
Yeah.
You can see this, right? So he says in his August 23, 2017 email that he's decided to withdraw in bold and underline my advisory notice against this project. He says at the end in bold, this project has demonstrated that it is moving in compliance. That's August 23, 2017. And then I'm going to share another screen if I may. Sorry, let me pull that up. Right. Sorry, I've got to reset that. My apologies. Where is it? I'm going to share this in a second. And here, if you can see this document, it's dated May 22nd, 2018. It's from the Office of Tax and Compliance. It's advisory notice. And it says in the first paragraph, as such, please be advised this letter serves as advisory notice that the aforementioned project is not in compliance. And then further on down, it goes on to say in the final paragraph, this office has no choice but to find this project in non-compliance. And then there's also a May 22nd, 2008 quarterly project report, which I don't know if you can see this one, but it indicates project in compliance, and there's an in red, no. And then in section 2 of that document, business contract requirement, it says non-compliance as well on that. So, turn off my share screen unless you want me to keep it on.
Do you want Eugene to answer?
Sure.
So I'm a bit confused, and my confusion is a result of my trying to understand what the councilman is aiming at. We have, this project has had a stellar reputation going in. I have Mike Goldstein from Caber, who's available if you want to hear from him directly. There is the report that was issued, the latest report that was issued on 8/16/18 was that it was in compliance. There is a financial audit that was submitted on December 31, 2019, as required. The C of O was issued May 2019. The project was specifically, the compliance report specifically referenced the advisory notice. It's not a violation notice, by the way, it's an advisory notice, and it said it was in compliance. There's no outstanding violation notice today. There's no outstanding advisory notice today. So I'm not sure I understand what the issues are. Today, the project, and the project for the most part, has been in compliance throughout its construction and is today in compliance. The statute, the New Jersey statute that relates to tax abatements, transfers, assignments, does not go into any of this. It really says that there are 4 things that need to be addressed by the municipal council in any consideration of an assignment of a tax abatement. And the first thing is that there's no ownership of another project by the person that's taking the assignment. In this case, 280 Fairmount, there's no other property that it will be owning. This is the only one. That 720 Fairmount, that 720 Bergen Avenue, the present holder of the tax abatement, is not in default of the financial agreement. There's no question that there has been no notice, written, oral, suggested, email, carrier pigeon, anything that indicates that the financial agreement has been in violation. The third item that needs to be complied with is that there is a urban renewal entity that's formed, that has been formed in this case, to take the financial agreement, to take the assignment. The next item is that new urban renewal entity agrees to take a full assumption, takes over all of the obligations of the prior owner of the property. And the last obligation is that the fee be paid. The fee was paid, I think, yesterday or this morning. So under the statute, all of the compliance items are met. The council's jurisdiction is you can reject it, but you can't unreasonably reject it. And if these are the conditions and they have been complied with, I suggest to you that under these facts, as Mr. Councilman LeVar has laid out, I don't even see there's no indication of non-compliance. There's no indication of breach of the financial agreement. I don't see where that would go. The question is really, does Caber or does 720 Bergen have a right to assign this to a party that's going to undertake exactly the same obligations? There's no change in the amounts that are due. All of those things are exactly the same. So I appreciate the inquiry into the compliance and non-compliance, and I understand fully why any council person would want to know that, but all I can tell you is, I think I've had a number of discussions with Nick Strasser and as to compliance, and with Rupert Toronto compliance. I don't quite comprehend why there's a question of the propriety of this assignment. If we're getting into an issue of whether or not a urban renewal entity has complied or not complied, well, then as of the date that the application is made from an assignment, there has to be some document that says, today you're not in compliance. You violated it in these ways. There's no such document today.
Just
So,
one more
if I-
thing.
If I may respond to that, I'm sorry, Brian, I'm going to just jump in there because I need to respond to that. So I'm just operating from the documents that were provided to me by the business administrator. And I showed the documents. You haven't disclosed the documents that you're referring to. And I'm assuming you're talking about the August 2018 quarterly report, compliance report. So from what I can see from that quarterly report, that's a report on the quarterly, the quarterly reporting itself. It's not necessarily about whether there was compliance from the previous 2018 defect, and whether something was done to address that, or to bring the project to address the non-compliance during that period. We have rescinded an abatement for much lesser reasons than what was discovered in these non-compliance in March of 2018. I'm sorry, May of 2018, which I shared already here before everyone at this point. We've rescinded abatements for just non-reporting, and in this case, they're actually saying in May 2018, not my document, the document provided by this business administration and the Office of Tax Abatement Compliance, that then in fact there was non-compliance. And under those circumstances, the question that's being framed by the attorney who represents the developer and the developer's interests, with all due respect, is saying this is the only thing you have to consider. I would respectfully suggest that what we should be considering is whether we should be transferring an abatement that perhaps should not even be granted at this point, and whether we should be looking at whether there's a violation and whether that's been addressed sufficiently at this juncture, at this point in time. And if it hasn't, what needs to be done to do that, or do we need to rescind the abatement altogether as well in that respect? The other thing I'll add, and which I mentioned as well, and there's no recent report about this, although there should be, is determination as to whether or not there's any compliance with regard to our municipal code, and in particular the statutes that govern post-construction compliance. If there should be any, it should include both the hiring, and includes, I believe there is a retail business there. And so the tax abatement continues to apply post-construction. And so the hiring around those jobs should also be local minority jobs, in accordance with the project labor agreements that were provided there, the vendors and everyone else, that if that retail business was contracting and vending, we should have done our compliance checks on that to ensure that those vendors were also in compliance with that retail, if they did any outfitting of the facility, whether they were in compliance there. And that's incumbent upon KABR to ensure that their retailers and other folks are also in compliance in doing that. And then in the hiring, if they're hiring any maintenance, security guards and so forth around that, that they're in compliance with our wage laws, our standard wage laws around that as well, and to ensure that that is happening. There is no reporting on that that's been provided to date. So respectfully, I'm not going to belabor the point. I think it's fairly clear, frankly, that I'll ask the council to consider tabling this until we get sufficient information to address those matters.
I just want to clarify one thing that I was explaining earlier. The advisory notice, which Councilman do not share in your screen share, from May. There's a quarterly report from August of 2018 that shows the project is in compliance. That is our document that indicates that it is no longer out of compliance. All the advisory notices have been withdrawn. We don't have a copy of any email that Pierre sent speaking to this, but that's the document. So.
Council Chair, I was going to indicate that very document that Brian just spoke with. It's an August 16, 2018 document. It specifically asks in question mark, project in compliance, question mark, select one. The answer is yes. In response to the first quarterly advisory notice, basically they're withdrawing the quarterly notice because we were then in compliance. The C of O was issued May 22, 2019. Since that date, there's no other document. If you went into the records of the city even if the city had kept meticulous records,
when was the CO issue?
Let me finish. You would not see another document that indicates that there's been no compliance. And I was just pointing out to you that there is a statutory border to the things that the council can do with respect to a tax abatement. As you know, the whole program is a state statute program, so that's a requirement of the statute itself. So I don't know. I would like to be able to answer Councilman Ladaro and say, here is your response to a defective compliance, but he doesn't show a document that says that today that project is non-compliance. And all the documents that he does show that they were rescinded. I would respectfully request that the assignment be approved. That's all. I have Michael Goldstein of Tabor here if you want to hear from the owner himself, but that's up to you.
When was
Any
construction?
more questions? Who's this? Any more questions?
This is Councilman LeVar. When was construction completed?
Yes, May 20. The C of O, I don't know when it was completed, but the certificate of occupancy was issued 5/22/2019. The financial audit, the year-end financial audit, was issued for 12/31/2019. It was presented to the mayor and to the council.
Okay, all right.
If I may just make a statement.
And I'm here, council, to answer any questions. Just very briefly regarding this project, this one's very special to us, and it's important that everyone recalls this 4 years back. But without this tax abatement, the project could not have happened, and we couldn't be happier to bring the first private development in the McGinley Square area to the neighborhood in decades. And it's been a great hit with the new residents and the new community that's forming around there. It spurned new development at several parking lots surrounding us. We brought great retail, which the surrounding neighborhood loves. It's a physical therapy place, and we're catering. Our tenant is catering to elderly people and people that have disabilities walking around. So, providing that medical service in that area is great. And it's been a great project. We're excited, and we want to thank the council for working with us 4 to 5 years ago. I can recall a couple of you guys sitting, when we had the ribbon cutting. It was great. And regarding some of the notices we received back in 2017, I wish Pierre was here to communicate, but when we received those notices, they were non-compliance from our general contractor. And as owner, typically, we don't get involved. We got very involved. Gene was involved. We went down to their office. Yeah. And in fact, we helped Pierre craft a lot of the paperwork that's worth that, and the tracking that's, we see today. Our building engineer is a retired Jersey City police officer, local to the neighborhood. We're happy to have him. His name is Mario, great guy. He's going to be continuing with the building. And it's been a great project. And I think this type of project is exactly what the objective of the pilot was meant to be.
All right.
May I ask Mr. Goldstein, when was construction completed?
I believe construction was completed in 2018, I believe. Gene, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, the
Was that when
CFO
was
was
issued?
the CFO was May 2019.
2019, right. It was
So is that when
2019,
construction was
so,
completed?
excuse me?
Was construction completed there around there or thereabouts that time?
Around when we received the CO in May 2019, correct?
So the last notice, just for the record, to be clear, that Mr. Paulino referred to is in 2018, May 2018, I believe.
Yeah.
And so you've got nearly a full year of potential construction, which we don't have reporting on, frankly.
No, we don't.
And so, absent of that information, we can't ensure compliance.
That's incorrect. The notice was May 22, 2018. The report describing it as rescinded was 3 months later.
Mhm.
Rescission that I would like a copy of the rescission you're referring to. The rescission
I sent it to you.
says it's 2017 is the rescission from Pierre, and then there was a 2018 again notice of non-compliance advisory notice, and then a 2018 quarterly report, which I would dispute as to without an affirmative saying that in fact that it clears up the past non-compliance, but the business administrator suggesting that quarterly report suggests that it's compliance for both previous quarters as well as that current quarter. That it suggests that's quarterly, but that's in May of 2018. I'm sorry, August of 2018. August 2018. So that's 6 months later, frankly.
Okay, Gene, could you just send us all everything that you have? Because it seemed like there's a gap with the paperwork somewhere.
Sure.
We're missing something because
Mr. President, I did
it's a
exactly
gap.
that. I
It's
did
a gap.
exactly
I
that.
see it's a gap, okay?
Yeah. But we did exactly that. I sent it to, and if Nick Strasser is still here, I sent it to him. I also sent it to Rupert Verano. I think I sent it to you. I'm not sure. I could have.
Send it to, well, you can have Nick send it to all the council so we can get it, because it's like a discrepancy in dates and everything like that, but you have a CEO, you're in the building. It's like, it seemed like there is a missing piece here, and Pierre's not here. So
Right.
It's like you got a gap here, to be perfectly honest. A gap that nobody can answer. That's
I'm
the
happy
problem.
to send that to you. I'm happy
All
to
right,
send
nobody can answer this gap right now. That's what I see. Okay, go ahead, Sean.
Okay. On to item 4.3, City Ordinance 20-043. Ordinance amending Chapter 254, Property Maintenance, Article 10, Property Used for Illegal Activities. Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Item 4.4, City Ordinance 20-044. Ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City adopting amendments to the Land Development Ordinance, including the adoption of a flood overlay zone, F zone, and green area ratio, also known as GAR, and amendments to the definitions and checklists. Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Item 4.5, City Ordinance 20-045, an ordinance adopting the Traffic Control Manual 2020 edition and incorporating the safety regulations contained therein by reference into Chapter 296. This is the company second reading ordinance that John Hallinan discussed about the first reading ordinance amending the entire chapter of 296. So we'll move on. Not hearing any questions. Item 4.6, City Ordinance 20-046, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, amending Sections 332-22, No Parking Anytime, 332-23, No Stopping or Standing, Section 332-26, No Stopping or Standing Certain Hours, and Section 332-31, Parking Restrictions for Street Cleaning Purposes, to accommodate protected bicycle lanes on various roadways. Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Last second reading ordinance, item 4.7, City Ordinance 20-047, an ordinance amending the boundaries of Exchange Place Special Improvement District to remove block 13103. Nick?
I think the council member, I just want to address this one, 4.7, as it relates to the next item, which is the approval of the Exchange Place SID assessment for the coming year. Now, in the event that you pass this ordinance, you'll be removing a block and lot, or several blots out of the Exchange Place SID. That would thereby affect the assessment because you'd be taking out 135 Montgomery from the assessed roll. So there's either two things that can happen. Either the assessment can be recalibrated based upon the removal of that particular parcel from the Exchange Place SID, and have new assessments go out to everyone to cover whatever their $72,000 that their assessment would have been for the entire SID. The other option is for the Exchange Place SID or the council to reduce the total budget by the amount that 135 Montgomery would have paid in, thereby allowing you to vote for it on Wednesday because there would be no new assessments that would need to go out to any of the other members of the Exchange Place SID. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
James.
Yeah,
James, I know you talked to the SIDs. What?
Yeah, they were they're comfortable with all of this. I didn't know the two choices that Nick just laid out, but I can call them in a minute and get it. I imagine that they would want to pass the budget and just reduce their budget by the 135 Montgomery amount.
I spoke with Elizabeth Kane, the director, just before the caucus, and she's okay with just removing that amount from the budget and keeping the rest of the budget as is, and having to reduce the budget by whatever amount their assessment is, instead of having to redo the whole thing.
Okay.
Just to keep in mind, I mean, that's probably the cleanest way we can go, because if we go the other way, where we incorporate the amount, if they don't want to lose that amount, we would then have to resend out all the letters and re-advertise this for another public hearing.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. The one thing sorry, Council President, the one thing I would just add is, in terms of that reduction of that number, if you go to the Exchange Place, could identify what particular line item is coming out of, just so we know exactly what the budget will look like as it's approved by the council with a particular line item that it's being removed from, or several, or however they choose to do.
Brian, you'll follow up with that? I can't.
Brian, you're on mute.
Yeah. Sorry, it's on mute. Yep.
Okay.
And Nick, do we have to add a resolution waiving the 20-day waiting period on this ordinance?
It probably would be a good idea, and we'll handle that.
As long as
especially if the budget is going to be approved on Wednesday, it would be good to have that make it absolutely clear that it's effective immediately, and then it would not be effective. It would be effective for this particular budget you're passing on Wednesday. So the law department will make sure that happens.
Thanks, Nick.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right.
Everybody good? Everybody have any questions on that? With that being said, moving on, we'll have our Special Improvement District assessment public hearing on the 2020-2021 Exchange Place Alliance Special Improvement District assessment and roll and budget. Then we have our list of public speakers, which is pretty extensive. And it's still being added to. Then we go to our petitions and communications, items 6.1 through 6.34. Any questions or comments? These are petitions and communications. Okay. Hearing none. Our officer communications 7.1 through 7.2. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, our report of directors, 8.1 through 8.3. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, and then we go on to our claims. We have claims at this point, and then we go to our resolutions. So taking it from the top, item 10.1, resolution 20-405 is a resolution authorizing an emergency temporary appropriation. Item 10.2, resolution 20-406 is a resolution authorizing the tax collector to process third quarter estimated tax bills due August 1st, 2020. Any questions so far? Okay. Item 10.3, city ordinance, city resolution 20-407, a resolution authorizing refunds due to overpayments for property tax accounts. And next is item 10.4, resolution 20-408 is a resolution approving the reappointment of Chief Municipal Prosecutor of the City of Jersey City Municipal Court to serve for a term of 1 year. And we have Jake Hudnut here for any questions council may have.
Yes. Any questions? Jake, you want to just give us an update on all you have done since you've been here? I know you've been doing so many things, so I'm quite sure you're there with a presentation, so you would you can share it with us if you like.
I could do that, or I can just email it to the council. It's up to you all. I know it's I know your time is valuable, so I'll defer to you. I have 7 slides to blow through, or I'm happy to email it to the council, just recapping the last year and the vision ahead. Okay.
Anyone have questions?
Yeah, Jake, where do we stand with the Airbnbs?
Well, so globally, as the council knows, we hired an outside, the Housing Preservation Division hired a consultant, which identified 1,800 unregistered Airbnbs. Their first warning is going to go out by July 1st, if not sooner. They will get a certain period of time to register, and if they don't, those warnings will convert to summonses, and we will prosecute them in court. Only 130 Airbnbs came forward affirmatively. We were inspecting Airbnbs individually as they were reported to us in the beginning of the year, but COVID kind of slowed down all our code enforcement. With respect to, I know 50, sorry, my tie just looks really ridiculous right now. With respect to 50 Trenton Street, we just mailed criminal offenses of maintaining a nuisance to the 4 owners of that property. So they'll be getting those in the mail, and they'll have to come to our criminal court in addition to what Housing Preservation is sending them this week.
So I got about 5 or 6 more. And you know, Jake, we passed this ordinance a long time ago, and this should have been acted on. I mean, I've been getting call after call. What's been going on, especially at 50 Trenton Street, has been totally wrong. So they got to follow up on this, and these out-of-town landlords are not supposed to be running Airbnbs. Oh, hey.
My cat agrees with you, Councilman.
Thank God my dog's not in here. She hates cats.
No, I agree, but I will say that we had to go to a vendor. It was either that or hire additional housing inspectors, and 1,800 Airbnb owners are about to get a notice, and we will prosecute those that do not fit the parameters of the ordinance.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions?
Just want to say you're doing a fantastic job, Jake, and I wish we could make it 2 years instead of just 1.
Well, thank you. And interestingly enough, there is some debate to change the term to 3 years. That comes out of Trenton, no, but the Attorney General has called for that.
Okay.
Okay. No more questions? Thank you. Send us the presentation, Jake.
I will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jake. Okay, next item is resolution 20-409. Item 10.5, resolution introducing and approving the 2020-2021 budget of the Westside Avenue Special Improvement District, and directing the city clerk to publicly advertise the budget and schedule a public hearing, and directing the tax assessor to prepare an assessment roll of properties within the district based upon the budget. Okay, any questions?
Question.
Yep.
Is Mr. Bernardo here, or is it Mira going to answer? Councilwoman Prinzary, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll just ask the question, whoever's available.
The question, I don't know that Chris is here.
Oh, Chris is here, great.
No,
Chris,
no.
I actually meant to ask this for Journal Square as well, so it's the same item. Can you just speak to what ambassador is on the line item there?
I don't think Chris Bernardo is on the call. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It says CB.
Now, the CB is Councilperson Baggiano.
Councilman, to answer your question as best I can, we do not have ambassadors at the same way that they do in Journal Square because it's a different staffing thing. But we do have for Westside Partnership is the CDC cleaning service, and they go through and they assist with trash removal, graffiti removal, painting light poles, painting fire hydrants, and things like that.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving on, item 10.6, resolution 20-410, resolution accepting the assessment roll of the Exchange Place Alliance Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City. So in here, Brian, if we could, we'll find the location of 135 Montgomery and strike it out from the assessment roll as well. And then item 10.7, resolution 20-411, resolution adopting and ratifying the 2020-2021 budget of the Exchange Place Alliance Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City. Here, we would just need the location of the budget on where the 135 Montgomery Street is being removed from. Once we confirm that, we'll have that, we'll make that amendment before we vote on these two items. Okay, council members? And Brian, good with that?
Yep, that works.
Excellent.
I have Council President.
Sure.
Is anyone here from the SID?
No, I don't believe so.
No.
It wasn't requested, so.
Okay.
She was here last time.
Yeah, when we introduced at the last,
Right, she was here.
a couple meetings ago.
So I've gotten a number of emails, and I'm sure other members of the council have as well, from the Katyn Memorial folks. Okay, I just think after everything we went through with the statue, and what Councilman Boggiano, Councilman Yun, and Councilman Solomon, and the work that they did to champion that, and the preservation of the statue there, and how all of that ultimately worked out. I just think it would be a good idea, a very good idea, for the EPA to meet with the folks and discuss their plans and what they're proposing there. I mean, just for the record, I think this all should be a very public process. Any improvements to the Exchange Place area and the pier in that regard. But I would strongly encourage them to do that. I'll reach out to Elizabeth and the EPA members as well around that to urge them to have that meeting, because I think we owe it to them, frankly, after all.
You know what? Let me just say, I think Elizabeth last time she said she welcomed that, and all they have to do is just, pretty much set up a meeting. And I know I did receive a letter, I'll forward you to, from the Committee of the Conservation of the Katyn Memorial, and they say they are the spokesperson. So I'll forward the letter. Yeah, I'll forward the letter to you. I know they copied me. I think did they copy you too, James, on this letter? I'm not sure. Yeah, they copied James too. So it's not, the SID is not hiding anything. They're open and meet with anybody. So all they have to do is just reach out. That's it.
Joyce, one of the problems is that taking part of that land for that hotel. And according to Elizabeth, this was granted under Healy's administration maybe several years ago. And as far as I'm concerned, and other people are concerned in the city, That's
I
where the
think they
problem
need to have a meeting, like they open to it. The SID
well-
is open to a meeting, and I received, like I said, I'll forward you the letter that I received
I
from a
got the
different
letter,
group too.
Joyce.
Oh, you
Yeah,
got the
Joyce,
letter too?
I got the letter. Yeah,
Okay,
I've been in
so
touch with there's 3 or 4 different fractions of the Polish
See?
community.
that's what I'm saying.
You know,
I don't want to get in the middle of their battle, but
but
I
it
just
also
think,
includes, you got the, different ethnic groups that have parties down in the exchange
Sure.
place, and they're worried
Sure.
about their, the availability of exchange place.
no, but they're open. Everybody's open to meet.
All right.
There'll be no hindrance. Okay? Go ahead, Sean.
Item 10.8, Resolution 20-412, resolution authorizing the business administrator to execute a discharge of mortgage for 20.5 Clendenny Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey, also known as Block 1779, Lot 13D. Next, item 10.9, Resolution 20-413, resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City authorizing the business administrator to execute a mortgage discharge regarding the property located at 78 Martin Luther King Drive, Jersey City, Block 25601, Lot 1.C8001. Item 10.10, Resolution 20-414, a resolution authorizing the business administrator to execute a discharge of mortgage for 43 Van Nostrand Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey, also known as Block 22602, Lot 14, formerly known as Block 1463, Lot 42. Item 10.11, City Resolution 20-415 is a resolution authorizing the business administrator to execute a discharge of mortgage for 87 Jefferson Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey, also known as Block 5706, Lot 20, formerly known as Block 701, Lot 37. Item 10.12, Resolution 20-416 is a resolution authorizing the Jersey City Department of Health and Human Services to accept the 2020 Summer Food Service Program grant.
I have a question.
Sure.
We have Stacy, Director Flanagan is here to answer any questions the council may have.
Great. So the food for this particular grant is used for what?
The food for this particular grant is for breakfast and lunch for all kids under the between 5 and 18 in the city.
Okay. So I guess in a COVID state, what are we doing with that money, or are we setting up similar to
so we are
schools?
The policy right now allows us to do outside feeding and grab and go sites. We have a series of grab and go sites. Today started all of our training. So we'll have a grab and go site at City Hall, at the Annex, at the Bethune Center, at the Collier Center, at the Connor Center. We're working with Christine to have one at Apple Tree House. We're working with Jeffrey to have some at the libraries. All 19 of the open schools that are open for summer meals are doing their own. They have a seamless summer program, so they're coordinating with us. And then any of the locations where we're going to be doing our hybrid camp activities, we're coordinating with Recreation and Youth Development right now. In addition, all of the other programs that are allowed to operate as camps and or drop-in sites based on the current governor's executive orders are allowed to be a part of the program. And we have about 75 current partners, and we're looking to do more open sites, which we haven't done as much of in the past. We believe that connecting food to an activity is not really open to all families, which is why we're looking to partner with the library. And we're hoping in some of those locations, at least one per ward, to have additional food resources there for families with the emergency food box program that we've been operating for the last 10 weeks. So we'll continue to do that and in a pickup manner at some open site locations.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have several questions.
Okay.
Stacy, so the grantee for this is this a new, I'm sorry, the awardee for this is a new awardee for this?
So as you may recall, when I came on board almost 7 years ago, this was in the health department, but we did not have a food and nutrition structure that would enable us to leverage more programming. So it moved into recreation at that time. After we created the Division of Food and Nutrition, we thought that this would allow us to have like more robust conversations around the food system. And with the changes to recreation and youth development, it now falls under Health and Human Services. This is not a new grant. We're just back at it.
New vendor. I'm sorry.
Oh, new vendor. Yes. So this vendor, so, you know, for several years, and I think Councilman Solomon will reiterate some of the feedback that he received over time. The former vendor was not really being upheld to the nutrition standards of the program and was offering, you know, only chocolate milk that day or something like that. That's just not acceptable to us. So we actually were able to, because of COVID, go back to the former vendor and ask them if they wanted to stay a vendor, which would have required them to stay at the same price, the price point, because that was the state policy, and they actually refused. And we had to go through the state procurement process. And so we did an RFP, got 2 bids, and this was definitely one that came with more experience and like held themselves up to the standard of nutrition. And we found that they also were working with the city of New York and have been very successful there. And so we're very excited to try out a new vendor.
Yeah, so 1032 is the vendor for this Red Rabbit. I'm sorry, I'm collapsing things. Can I talk about that already, or do you want to wait, Council President, until you get down there?
Whatever you guys tell me.
Yeah.
To do.
If you want, I can read it into the record, so then we can.
Okay, read it, Sean, so we can have, yeah.
Okay, so item 10.32, resolution 20-436 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Red Rabbit LLC to provide 2020 summer food service program for the Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Food and Nutrition.
This was publicly bid?
Yeah, I think that's what we put on the last, I think it was. We went out, we wrote up the bid, we sent it to Ray, it went out, we got 2 bids back. And there was a review team that Angela coordinated, and that is what you have.
And what was the other bid number, the amount, or?
So I was not involved in that process, so I can actually ask Angela. She had an appointment, so she wasn't sure she could have been on the phone. But I can ask her. I mean, if you hold, I can look through my emails, but I'll try to get.
Ask her to send it to us.
Sure.
Go ahead, Rolando. Continue asking your questions.
Just compared to last year's vendor, I mean, what's the per unit cost of? I mean, is this like as based on consumption of the meals, or is it?
So everything.
Meals?
So everything that we do is based on consumption. We only get paid for meals that are eaten. And so whether that's Meals on Wheels or served, I would say served, congregate meals, this all similar reimbursement process. There's a general rule of thumb through the USDA of like about what a meal should cost. People try to really, I guess, sort of come in really low for at the bid time, and then they don't perform and don't provide the meals that we request. This is 100% funded by the grant, and while the price point's slightly higher, I believe, than last year, the vendor we had last year, we were able to go to and say, you have the right of refusal based on COVID, so that we didn't really want to go out to bid because we just, if that group was going to take us. So Angela's going to send that. I'm having her send it to Desiree.
Yes, send it to Desiree and she'll distribute it to the council.
Okay. And so they didn't actually wind up bidding on this meal program. And there was one of the groups that actually did bid, which is probably why this actually it was like an easy, I guess, follow-up for the purchasing team. Didn't technically have all of the items in place to be able to bid, and I can find that email from purchasing for you.
Okay.
I can share all of that with you.
Okay.
Can you provide the amount of the contract for last year and this year's contract?
Okay.
Rest, as well as the per unit costs?
Okay. I will say, in a pre-COVID environment and post-COVID, the cost of food is significantly increased.
Yes.
And this is the serious issue that we're seeing in our community about the holes in our food system, and then the issues of like what surplus farmers have versus other items. So, but I will get that all to you.
Okay, thank you.
And I
Any
just
more
want-
questions? Go ahead, James.
Yeah, just a very brief, but I just to director's point, I did ask the city to look into this because I had received some parent complaints about the food choices. So obviously I haven't looked at the applications, but I'm appreciative that the city went out to at least explore other options.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else?
Just, Stacy, with regard to on page 6 of the grant, which is the first resolution, it says changes shall not be made on the meal count record form at any time. Meals that are disallowed by the state monitor cannot be claimed.
Correct.
So if it's disallowed, but the meal's already prepared and eaten,
the city then eats the cost, and some of that happened last year with the corrective action plans that we had based on if a meal comes without an option for regular milk or 2% milk, which is the rule of thumb, and there happens to be a state monitor because they do spot checks on a weekly basis, just like the health department does out in the field, they'll disallow reimbursement for that complete meal.
Can't we shift that cost to the vendor so that we're not eating the cost if they're not?
We will.
Now
that I'm in charge, yes, we will. We haven't run summer meals program in about 4 years, so we are taking it back. And Angela, I think, just sent the email to me. I'm going to forward it to Desiree to share.
Okay.
Is that part of the agreement with this Red Rabbit LLC that they will eat that cost?
Well, we will not accept it. So there's one piece, actually, when the delivery happens, and this is what happens every day at a congregate lunch site as well. If the meal comes and is not arrived to the standard of which we reimburse, we do not accept the meal. Which is one of the practices of having enough staff at every location. Right, so oftentimes we rely on volunteers at every location to manage these sites.
If you don't accept it, then the children don't eat.
Well, we can get children to another site where there is food available. So we want to make sure, so our goal is to have over 100 sites so that there's one in walking distance in case that's not the case. I mean, this is what we run into in every program where we're not cooking our own meals. And this is something, we hope JSEP will be able to do in the next few years, is provide all the meals of the city so that they're not leaving the city. We're growing food. We've got, ample people here that can work. We've got commercial kitchens throughout our city that can be doing this job. And we can keep that money here rather than giving to consultants and large vendors somewhere else.
Okay. I
Okay,
have no further questions.
okay. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay. Next is item 10.13, Resolution 20-417, a resolution authorizing the Jersey City Department of Health and Human Services to apply and accept grant funds from the State of New Jersey Department of Health, Division of Women, Infants, and Children, also known as WIC.
Questions?
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
The WIC office, was it open during COVID or is it open now? I know I got a question from.
So WIC is open and has been open throughout COVID. WIC is just not seeing in-person clients. WIC has an entire team. Every single staff member is working. We're printing checks. If there is an immediate need for checks, so like a mom coming right out of the hospital, we actually leave the check for her at the front desk for security for the pickup. But we do everything right now over the phone. This is one of the locations like the business administrator talked about earlier of like fitting out a part of the building space so that we can see clients. WIC is not pushing us to see clients in person yet, but we expect by mid-July that we would open to the public. And we changed the work schedule to be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to accommodate staff not all tripping over each other. We have several staff working from home, including our breastfeeding peer counselors and nutritionists.
So the question that I received was in regards to, I believe, diapers.
Yeah, WIC doesn't give out diapers, but whenever we get a phone call related to diapers, we coordinate that with Angela Cares.
Okay, because
so WIC just gives out actual checks for
food. I'll send you the
food.
question from Triangle Park because that's what I'm asking. So I'll talk to you offline.
Okay.
Any more questions? Okay, Sean.
Item 10.14, Resolution 20-418. It's a resolution authorizing the Jersey City Department of Health and Human Services to accept grant funds from the New Jersey Department of Health for the 2020 Farmers Market Nutrition Program.
This is our senior nutrition program. Integrated into WIC is the WIC-related Farmers Market Nutrition Program. This year, we do not have to, we're mailing all of these checks out. Our application process has been pretty similar to years past. We're uploading a fillable PDF on the website in addition to what we do normally. And we believe they'll be out the door by July 1st. We've got 2,400 checks of $30 each. They're broken into 6 checks of $5. And we are coordinating with VIA to help seniors get to farmers markets in their neighborhood so that we don't have to put out a bus and then someone not feeling comfortable to be on a bus. And we think that we will spend down the money. Once we spend down the money, we hope to get more. So that's like our first allocation from the state. And then if we spend it all, they'll give us more.
Okay.
So that means applications are open, and we are, you know, getting them in and email and sending them out in the mail.
Okay. Questions? Okay, Sean.
Okay. Do you have any other items, Stacy, on the agenda?
I think there's like an approval for a mental health training.
Yes.
Can we defer to that? So then.
Yes.
Okay, so that is
10.27.
10.27 resolution. Thank you. Resolution 20-431 is a resolution ratifying the award of an emergency contract to Soaring Words, Inc. for an 8-part series of mental health workshops for Jersey City employees and residents to help them cope with the emotional trauma resulting from the coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, I talked about this at the last caucus, and we've been working with Soaring Words. It's an exceptional nonprofit that connects us with Jersey City Medical Center, and we've done some in-person work with them in the past, and they have been working with us to move this onto online so we can do some positive psychology work and strength asset building in the community. So these are Zoom related. It'll be a series of 8.
Stacy, what happened if it has to extend after the 8 weeks? Do we have something in place for residents or employees?
Well, this is something that we're, opening the door in the conversation. We do have partners. This is something that we've talked a lot about, is that the health department doesn't have a mental health division. We do have staff that will troubleshoot like immediate concerns, and we do have mental health partners. I think you all know that the governor's office froze most of our mental health dollars, the Municipal Drug Alliance funding. And some of our partners that are doing that work, some mental health work at NJCU or at Hudson Pride, their dollars are frozen right now. So we are trying to figure out how to support them with additional care. We also have the mental health first aid counseling program. So if someone goes through these 8 courses, or maybe goes to 2 of them and says, you know what, I want to help my community, we'll invite them to learn about mental health first aid. This next 2 weeks, we're going to be doing a new mental health first aid facilitator training. We hire several people across the community so that they teach the classes. And then this is a new class that's online, because we were doing this in person. We did about, the goal is about 3,000 people trained. So everyone from the EMS, police, fire. We've trained most of recreation staff thus far. I think we offered training to all of your aides. Some of them may have taken it. And all of the RRC, and we started doing specific outreach. So like Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition movement, and just trying to get more and more people to like be able to identify sort of beginning triage related stuff around mental health, so that we can continue to think about the next steps. I mean, we've envisioned with NJCU a mental health counseling center on campus to align with their master's program and the federally qualified health centers that also don't have a large mental health component.
All right, good.
So is this program a training? I'm sorry, I'm not.
These are like workshops for the public. If you like them and you want to get engaged, then we do have a SAMHSA grant that does a 6-hour, 2 hours. It's like self-taught, and then it's a 4-hour online training to become certified as a mental health in mental health first aid.
But this program is for people who are experiencing mental.
And people that have experiencing like trauma and they want to learn a little bit more, figuring out like what their strengths are. It's a whole series of positive psychology efforts.
So it's an intervention to people who are experiencing trauma of some sort.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So it's 8 Zoom sessions, correct?
Yep, with like downloadable workbooks if you want, and then we'll record them all to have them on the Division of Injury Prevention's page on the website for future use.
Now I know you said that they do good work. But, what is their track record on this with this?
Well, I mean, like everyone, people are moving to Zoom related things, and they've done one with us in the past through the former contract we had with them that we related our faith-based work that we did post December 10th. And we're hoping that with enough follow-up and promotion that we'll have great attendance, working with the Recreation and Youth Development Department and other partners that are hosting young people and then adults that, you know, really need to take a break and figure out, you know, how they can do some self-healing. A lot of people are not, their health insurance doesn't cover telemed mental health. So they're having real difficult time finding that. We've offered a series of support groups and one-on-one mental health with a provider. We do the first one free, and then they ask for insurance, and they'll accept it. But we really prefer to do free workshops to make it available to everybody.
Oh, Stacy?
Yes.
Madam Director, apologies. I have a question. So this sounds like a great initiative. Are there any surveys that people can take voluntarily at the end of this series, or is that in the works?
Yeah, we definitely have a post-class survey, like, you know, what do you plan to use? Did you learn anything that's impactful? We did a series with our leadership, and I can provide you that evaluation, which is why we did that last year. And we were really excited that, you know, Lisa was able to do this via Zoom, and we're like, this might be a really great opportunity for people to think through some important things that they need.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Stacey, you mentioned that the Municipal Alliance.
Yes.
And that we have service providers there as well.
Yeah.
So selecting this service provider to provide this service, I mean, what was your process of trying to find a provider to provide this service?
Well, with some of our Municipal Drug Alliance partners, we're really focused on drug-related follow-up, and this is very global. This is, you know, more sitting inside a positive psychology framework, which is really asset building, and from a place of, like, I think a lot of our Municipal Drug Alliance people come from a place of talking through the issues of addiction because that's what they've been focused on doing. And or having the ability to do this in a short framework when they have other specific programming that we're trying to help them get funded. So it doesn't really fit like serving their clientele versus a general clientele. So like NJCU for the summer is closed, and educational arts for the summer transitions to camp. So while they were paid, you know, up until March, their camp work is not summer related, and most Municipal Drug Alliance teams don't do summer work because they're working with youth in schools.
Yeah. How long is each session?
Each session is about an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay, so I won't belabor the point anymore. I just so I bring up the Municipal Alliance, and you can also look at CDBG grantees and other service providers there. The per cost is here is about $2,500 per session for an hour and 20 minutes. Seems a little when you think about kind of our service providers who do Municipal Alliance work, and some of our CDBG grantees and other folks, and how much their per unit cost is, and or per session cost in that regard. It's probably compares very favorably to this group Soaring Words. It seems a little excessive to me, a little high to me, relatively speaking. But
I think for me, it's also for those people, right? So like if you're a trained employee at Haven, you want to take this workshop and or the series of workshops and be able to have that opportunity as well. So for us, it was a blend of what can we do for the community, and what can we do to support the next level. So if someone goes through that, all 8 sessions, maybe someone like Jessica, you know, at Haven says, I learned some things from this that I can better adjust some of the work that I'm doing in my community. Or the next session, I'm going to invite all the kids in my house to join me. And I think that was our goal, to like reduce the burden of programming.
Okay, someone else? Go ahead, Sean.
All right, Stacey,
Sean,
I think,
also-
I think you still have two more.
Yeah, and so like when I'm done, can Liberty Humane go?
My videos brought to you by.
Go ahead. Sean.
Okay, so item 1017, resolution 20-421 is a resolution authorizing affiliation agreement with St. Peter's University for allowing internships of public health students enrolled in both graduate and undergraduate programs at Jersey City Department of Health and Human Services.
Yeah, just a quick thing. This team at St. Peter's, they were already in the middle of an internship program that's paid externally by somebody else. So when this happened, they asked us if we would be able to take on interns. We couldn't really do it COVID related. So they're working actually with the Partnership for a Healthier Jersey City and the Office of Civic Engagement, because they're paid, they needed to put in like 60 hours or something like that to get paid from some scholarship that they were on, and the places that they were going to do this internship was no longer available because of COVID.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Next item, 10.23, resolution 20-427. It's a resolution authorizing the renewal of a contract with Winston's Food Service Bronx Corporation, Winston Food Service, for preparing senior home delivered meals.
And that's our Meals on Wheels.
Yep.
And that's because the way the contract year goes with the county increase of funding. So that that hits on July 1st.
Okay. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, I believe that's it for Stacy, correct?
Yeah, but I think because Liberty Humane goes through my agency, because Irene got sidelined last. I don't want her to be late. Not be on the, well, we ran out of time.
Right.
Can we
Okay.
proceed, Council President?
Go ahead.
Liberty Humane?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that's next item. So item 10.24, resolution 20-428 is a resolution authorizing the renewal of a contract with Liberty Humane Society for animal control services for the city of Jersey City. And we also have here Irene is with us too.
Okay.
Irene?
Who's that,
I'm
Rich?
here.
Is you
Yeah.
Rich? Go ahead.
Irene,
Yes.
they have to be open more often. I've stopped down there several times and the place is closed. See if you can get more help down there or whatever, but it should be open more to allow people go down and they want to adopt an animal and the place is closed.
Right. Well, in response to COVID, we had to close per executive order on March 17th. So we have technically been closed to the public for on-site visits since then. We have been doing adoptions and what we're calling a model called service by appointment ever since then. So you can email us or call or go on the website and schedule an appointment to effectively, similar to what Stacy described that WIC has been doing. The services are still available to people, but the building itself is not open to the public. We are examining options for safely reopening, but some of our programs in the limited space that we're in, we're not able to do vaccine clinics any longer in the building. So we're looking at options at doing that outdoors instead.
How many dogs do you have down there now?
Very few, I'm happy to report, because the majority of our animals are in foster care. So we did seek to evacuate the building in advance of COVID because we knew the shelter in order in place was going to be coming. And so all of our animals were in foster care the day before the order went into effect in the state of New Jersey. We've kept as many as we can in place because it's far better for animals to be in a home than it is to be in a shelter anyway. So that's been a very happy benefit to us.
Okay, good. Thank you, Irene.
Sure.
Any more questions? Anyone? Okay, Irene, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, getting back to, in order, item 10.15, resolution 20-419 is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of grant funds from U.S. Department of Homeland Security fiscal year 2019 Port Security Grant Program.
Is Mr. Kears here?
Ryan?
I actually don't think Greg is on, but this is a regular, I can have him send a memo like he usually does.
I'm just curious. It says here training, maintenance, sustainment, and PPE equipment. If you can just say a little bit more about training, maintenance, and sustainment.
Sure. I'll have him send a follow-up.
Okay.
Okay. Item 10.16, Resolution 20-420. It's a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to apply for and accept the fiscal year 2020 Safe and Secure Communities Grant from the New Jersey Department of Law and Public Safety, Division of Criminal Justice. Next.
I have a question.
Sure.
So this is providing for the hiring of 8 new officers. Is that accurate, or are these new, or is it?
No, it's not new. No, it's a reimbursement for existing officers.
Currently hired officers. It's not initiating the hiring of new officers, is it?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
Go ahead.
Item 10.18, Resolution 20-422 is a resolution authorizing the city to enter into agreements with Hunger Free America to share costs for AmeriCorps Vista volunteers to conduct summer hunger relief work.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Sorry. Next is item 10.19, Resolution 20-423. It's a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to enter into a cost reimbursement agreement with the State of New Jersey Department of Transportation, Division of Local Aid and Economic Development for the Johnston Avenue Road improvements provided by the U.S. Department of Transportation.
This is a grant to resurface and do a little bit of streetscaping along Johnston Avenue. I think the map is included here. Let me just make sure. It's from basically Liberty State Park to Grand Street. It's that whole stretch.
Okay. Any questions?
Okay.
All right.
Item 10.20, Resolution 20-424 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to State Line Fire and Safety for the purchase of Hearst hydraulic rescue tools through the Houston Galveston Area Council Cooperative Purchasing Program for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Fire.
Okay.
Okay. Item 10.21, Resolution 20-425 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Software House International Corporation for the purchase of FortiGate security appliance firewall under state contract for Public Safety Communications Center. I believe we have Barb Baker here if there's any questions from communication. Director of Communications, sorry.
Questions, anyone?
Bob, is this a renewal?
No, it's not. It's new. It's replacing a antiquated appliance.
You speak to that? What appliance you said?
Yes,
Okay.
it's a firewall. It prevents places like China and Russia and stuff sending Trojans and malicious stuff onto our network.
And our existing firewall is antiquated, you're saying?
Yes, it is. And to replace it, it was $250,000. It's a Cisco source power, firepower, and you know, it's old technology. And it was paid for under UASC, so we got it for free. And you know, to maintain it right now, it's very expensive. You know, it's outdated, its time, and Fortinet right now is the #1 firewall on the market for cybersecurity. So again, it keeps us completely ahead of the curve.
Okay.
Have we experienced any cyber attacks or suspected cyber attacks, or you know, any of that?
We we would like to come in and when we can and address the council. I cannot tell you anything on a public site like this. You would actually even have to sign, an agreement not to disclose what we say, but I could just say this to you. Before COVID, we averaged about 1,000 attacks a week. It's now over 15,000 attacks a week. Mostly because people are home and they know a lot of networks are not being monitored and watched, and it's very scary out there. We're fighting two viruses. We're fighting COVID and we're fighting, the ones on the internet as well.
Wow. Thank you for shedding light on that. I think it's important.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Any more questions? Okay, Sean.
Okay, item 10.22, thanks, Bob. 10.22, Resolution 20-426 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for Lime Computer Systems for the Rave 911 and Smart 911 annual license for emergency mass notification system under the GSA contract for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Office of Emergency Management, funded by fiscal year 2018 Urban Area Homeland Security Initiative grant.
Any questions?
Okay. Item 10.23 and 10.24 were touched on earlier. Item 10.25, Resolution 20-429 is a resolution ratifying and awarding an emergency contract to Willie's Fence Company for the purchase, installation, and delivery of fencing at various city parks due to COVID-19 for the Department of Public Works, Division of Park Maintenance.
I have a question for the law department in relation to emergency contracts. And this is not just pertaining to this, but to all emergency contracts at this point. So given that the governor's lifted the stay-at-home order, can you tell us what the status is of the state of emergency and the state of, I think it's public health emergency, that were issued by that, and the applicability of emergency contracts within, given that the stay-at-home order has been lifted, but and then I guess in relation to those two state of emergencies.
Well, the state of emergency is still in place. It has not been lifted yet. If we're talking about the interplay between these contracts, these emergency contracts, and the state of emergency, the state of emergency is the controlling factor here. And I think there are a lot of factors that go into a state of emergency aside from the stay-at-home order. And I think that is why the connection is between the state of emergency and not the state of emergency and the emergency procurement law, and not the stay-at-home order and the emergency procurement law. I think it also contemplates the fact that there may be a second wave with COVID that would be in place, and that we need to be mindful of when it comes to procurement. And I think that might be in place with regard to necessary supplies, PPE, et cetera, that would be required in the fall. Again, God forbid there's a second wave or a substantial second wave.
So is recreation here for this? This is fencing on an as-needed basis, or they already have? Okay, you have several sites here identified.
Yeah. So this is coming out of the Department of Public Works, Division of Park Maintenance.
It's going to be reimbursed by COVID, the COVID stuff?
Yeah.
The CARES Act?
Yeah. Yeah, we're submitting this reimbursement.
I have no further questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Sean.
Item 10.26, Resolution 20-430 is a resolution ratifying emergency contract award to LDV Inc. for the purchase of 2021 Freightliner MT 55 mobile testing unit due to COVID-19 for the Department of Public Safety, Office of Emergency Management.
This is also 100% reimbursable under the CARES Act. We really don't have a good vehicle or setup for doing our testing right now. As you probably heard us describe in the past, we're working very hard to aggressively test residents that are high risk. So we also don't want them to be coming to the testing center directly, driving to the Marion Boulevard location, for example. So what we're doing is we're going from location to location to try and get them tested. This is going to help us do that more effectively, more efficiently, and not like, it's basically a bunch of SUVs at this point that we drive around to do this. So this is going to help tremendously.
Questions?
Are there SUVs currently doing that right now? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's I forget exactly which vehicles that we're using to do this, but whatever they are, they're not sufficient to do this efficiently.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, very good. Item 10.27 was touched on earlier. Item 10.28, Resolution 20-432, is a resolution ratifying emergency contract award to Millennium Communications Group for the upgrade of City Hall security for the Department of Administration Division of Architecture. We have our architect here, Brian Weller, who is the director of the Division of Architecture, who's here to answer any of the questions for. And I can read them into the record real quick because he has them in a row here, if you guys don't mind. Item 10.29, Resolution 20-433 is a resolution authorizing an amendment to a contract with the Municipal Group, PA, in connection with the design and construction administration services for the Historic Preservation City Hall side entrance stair rehabilitation, project number 2018-009 for the Department of Administration Division of Architecture. We also have the item 10.31, Resolution 20-435, and it's a resolution authorizing the award of professional service contract to Johnson & Urban LLC Consulting Engineers in connection with engineering services for the City Hall Annex, 1 Jackson Square, HVAC assessment on the first floor, Health and Human Services space, project number 2020-005 for the Department of Administration Division of Architecture.
Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, good evening, Council. Glad to see everybody's smiling and happy and healthy. This first emergency ratifying resolution is for the city's City Hall security system. Mr. Baker pretty much summed it all up between COVID as well as the cultural changes that we're going through, and the fact that City Hall basically has nothing as far as protection and security system. So that's what pretty much drove this all along. There's a team of professionals working on this. We have Frank Kuna, our architect, historic preservation architect for City Hall, as well as engineering was involved, and now my office.
Any questions? Okay, Brian, next one, 10.29.
Okay. I'm sorry, I had a question. I'm sorry. I was on mute. My apologies.
Okay.
Brian, the account number is an 04 account, although this will be reimbursed by, I guess, I'm sorry, to Brian Platt, reimbursed via COVID, via the CARES or?
Yeah, I apologize. I don't remember the number for the COVID account that we're using for everything. This should be it.
I mean, it's an 04 capital improvement account. I just wanted to, that's on the resolution.
We'll confirm the account.
Okay.
Any other questions on item 10.28?
I was going to say, it does say in the first line that it is due to COVID-19. So whereas the Division of Architecture was notified of the need to update the security system for City Hall due to COVID-19. So I'm assuming, hopefully, Brian can get back on that.
You've been coding them a certain way, I know, right? That's
Right, the coding is different, might be, yeah.
Yeah, we'll confirm the account.
Excellent. Okay, any questions on the next item, which is 10.29, the side stairs entrances?
Are they putting them back historically, correct, Ryan?
Absolutely, I was waiting for that. Yes, and originally, just so everybody knows, we did not anticipate the project was going to take this long. However, when we solicited the historic preservation architect, we put in construction administration for 6 months. But I'm sure, as you were all aware, it's a pretty intense project, and the contractor is moving along great. But there have been a few unforeseen things, and that has slowed things down a little bit. So I would like to keep this architect on board so that we bring it in for a nice, smooth landing.
All right, and when are we going to replace the first floor tiles, the historic tiles?
I know they're working diligently on that.
Well, there's a lot of complaints on it.
We're going out to bid on that in a couple of weeks or so.
All right, Brian, one more, actually 2 more questions, Brian. How much are they spending on Riverview Park? I've seen, it seems like a massive construction, and some of the trees they cut down there was a shame. They were beautiful trees. There was no reason for them to come down.
Well, actually, Councilman, I have to disagree. All of the trees that came down were signed off on by our forester, as well as the arborist hired for the job. So it was only a matter of time before they became a liability to the city and not the assets that they look like.
Well,
yeah,
Brian.
I just want to comment again on the trees. We have some photo documentation of the trees that were removed. The inside of most of those trees was almost fully rotted out, and they were an extreme liability for health and safety for people in the park. It was really hard to tell from the outside, but we did have a lot of tests done on these trees, and we only removed those that were of the utmost danger to patrons of the park. That being also said, we more than doubled the amount of trees that we removed. I think we're planting 86 trees as replacements, and I think we removed 40 or so trees. So we're on top of this for sure.
All right, because Brian, I'm into the trees. I'd like to speak to your forester. I have a tree farm,
Yeah.
So I was up there, and I know a lot about trees, and I might disagree with some of that what you just said. But
Councilman, I'll
so
send
right
you
now they're down.
I'll send you some pictures of the trees, or I'll get our forester to send you pictures.
You send them to me too.
Scary what we found. Yeah, Councilman. I'll send it to both of you. Yes.
All right, thank you, Brian. Thank you, both Brians.
And last but not least, item 10.31, which is the engineering services for the City Hall Annex on 1 Jackson Square. Does anyone have any questions on that for Mr. Weller? Hearing none, thank you, Brian, so much.
Okay, thank you. Stay safe.
You too. Okay, moving on, item 10.30. Resolution 20-434, resolution authorizing a month-to-month extension not to exceed 3 months effective as of June 15, 2020, of a contract with Temco Building Maintenance to provide janitorial services for the Department of Public Works Division of Building and Street Maintenance. We have here our director, Doug Colucci, to answer any questions that the council may have on this resolution.
Questions?
I have a quick question. Thank you, Doug. I believe we had, made a short extension of this right before COVID hit, and talking to Councilman Yoon due to the costs, and you guys were trying to go out to bid, and obviously COVID, I'm sure, interrupted that. But could you just give us a status and where we are on getting the final or getting final RFPs or proposals or whatever we have in store?
I do have good news on that, because I know the last time I came before the council with this, we did explain the process. The RFP has been advertised. It's on BidSync. According to the purchasing division, it's going to be advertised in the newspapers sometime in the next several weeks. We expect to have the proposals back on August 6th, and then we're anticipating being able to award the contract in the first meeting in September, assuming we have no issues with procurement.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Questions? Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, we're going to go to 31 and 32 were touched on earlier. Item 10.33, Resolution 20-437 is a resolution authorizing the award of license agreements as concession contracts to participants in a city-managed entrepreneur training program located at 347-349 and 351-355 Martin Luther King Drive.
Council members, this is lease agreements for vendors to be present at the Container Village on Martin Luther King Drive. Melissa is here from Innovation to talk about it if you have any further questions. But we did purposely make the agreements something that has to go through council, just so not only you'd be aware of it, but also that we could get some exposure for some of these businesses that are going in there to help them out.
Okay.
Any questions for Melissa?
Can you just speak to these businesses and
Yeah.
how you selected them and what that process looked like?
Yeah.
Sure. We worked with the local council representatives, as well as the JCEDC and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, to solicit vendors to fill out one of our informal application forms. Once we received the application forms, we worked with the Jackson Hill SID to help us understand which relationships she had been building for the past several years. We took into account the feedback provided by the SID, as well as the relationships that were described within the applications, to find 4 very different vendors who we thought would be able to be successful in that space, as well as take a great opportunity to learn from each other and from our business mentors in that location.
Also want to add that if anyone on the council or anyone else has any suggestions for businesses that would like to benefit from this space, we're more than happy to work with you or anyone else to get them into that space. This is really, it's here to support the local small businesses in the neighborhood, any of them.
How many applicants did you have ultimately?
We had 7 viable applicants, but we had a lot of interest, and we're thinking that the next quarter, it's a 3-month contract with additional option to extend, and we'll be soliciting every 3 months. So we're hoping that the next cycle will have much more interest.
More questions? Okay.
Alrighty, and there is
Melissa.
Thanks, Melissa. Sorry. There is going to be one late item added, and that was what Nick Strausser was referring to before. It's going to be a resolution waiving the 20-day waiting period on City Ordinance 20-047, which will be resolution number 20-438, and it will be needed to be voted on to be added as a late item.
There's one more thing just wanted to bring up quickly to the council president and to Councilman Robinson. We've been discussing the addition of a resolution about fireworks. That's something we can add as well if you desire. We can send you a draft of what we have. Okay. But one of the things to keep in mind here is that the sale of fireworks is already illegal. So there's not much more we could do legislatively to prohibit the sale of those. It's really about enforcement.
What about if they're in our local stores? What do we do then? Because I'm getting complaints, they in Acme, they in Walmart being sold. I know fireworks are illegal, but they're being throughout the whole city. I'm quite sure everybody's getting complaints. Yeah, they are just being abused in a sense.
At this point, we would defer to the Quality of Life Task Force, and if anyone sees these fireworks being sold, that they report that as quickly as they can, and then we enforce it and issue summonses or do what we have to do on that end.
Well, Brian, not all the fireworks are legal. Your cherry bombs and things like that are not legal. Secondly, we have a noise ordinance, and the complaints from people throughout the city is horrendous. About the fireworks. So maybe it's time we start enforcing the noise ordinance. It's like the Airbnb. We pass these ordinances, but we never enforce them.
Yeah, so again, if anyone sees a store that's selling fireworks of any kind, don't feel like you need to be the judge of what is legal and not. Just please report it to the Quality of Life Task Force, and we will enforce as quickly as we can. The challenge with the noise ordinance, obviously, is if you shoot a firework off once, and then we send over enforcement, they're not going to find anything unless they're actively shooting it off. It's kind of a challenge there. But what we have to do is try to limit and stop the sale of them locally here.
Okay.
Brian, you might not.
What else did, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, Brian, you might not know this offhand, but is if you are found with illegal fireworks, I guess in the process of setting off illegal fireworks, is there a fine or what happens in that?
I'll defer to the lawyers. I'm not exactly sure what the penalty is for that.
Okay.
Yeah, Councilwoman, there are potential fines, citation. The citation would come with a potential fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And can you send us the I guess what that fine is currently?
Yeah, I can circulate the state and local laws that govern fireworks. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I know that myself and the council president been really working with the law department trying to like get a hold of, and the business administrator trying to get a hold of what's going on with these fireworks in the city. And as you guys know, the other night we had 7 shootings and 1 homicide. And what they're doing is they're like setting the fireworks off to give a distraction to the police officers. So the police officer think it's fireworks going on and they're using it to shoot. The 7 and 1 was not the first time that it happened. It happened a few times before that. And I really want to say, and I don't want to over police this. I don't want people to think that we're trying to like police what's going on, because I know, there's been questions and talks about defund the police, but we really have to get a hold of these fireworks that's going on in the city. I know, and I'm sure that all the other council people have a lot of complaints and a lot of phone calls and emails about the fireworks that's being set off right now. And I know in my neck of the woods, my part of the city, Ward F, it's really, really like urgent that we find a way. And that's why I put this resolution up, to try to like make sure that we find a way to stop the sale. And if we can stop the use of them, because it's really dangerous to the community and dangerous to the people around. And we really want to make sure that we do as much as we can to stop it. So I know all the council people feel the same. I know the administration feels the same, but it's really rough in this part of the city because they're using the fireworks as distractions to actually, shoot guns. So I want to make sure that we do as much as we can without over policing the matter. The task force, I know I talked to the task force as well, and I want to make sure that we're doing as much as we can to, curb what's going on, because we still have a couple of weeks before the 4th of July, and I want everyone to remain safe and have a good summer. I mean, we've been doing the right things as far as marching and protesting and human rights and Black people rights and things like that, but we want to make sure that we have a good summer. So as much as we can do without over policing the matter, we have to really get this under control.
Okay. Any more questions?
Yes, Council President,
Sure.
two issues. Thank you. So the first was just for the council for the resolution related to the Liberty State Park Protection Act. Just a conversation 2 weeks ago had been that we wanted to delay the vote for 2 weeks. Now I understand that there's a larger conversation that some of the council folks want to have, and I would like to, be a part of that and support it as much as possible. And I know we're going to have an initial conversation with some of the representatives from the Department of Environmental Protection tomorrow. But I would like us to add it back on the agenda for us to consider on Wednesday, and just obviously allow each 9 of us to vote the way that we feel is appropriate on that. So that was the first item I just wanted to bring up.
Okay.
And then the second one is, oh, sorry, I didn't just, I'll go for the second one and then see if it comes. Second question is for the BA. The mayor in a press release had announced that he was intending to add-on contracts for police de-escalation training, and that we were going to vote on it at this meeting, but obviously the contracts were not on the resolutions. So if you could just give us an update on where that stands.
Yeah, there's nothing right now that is going on the agenda at this point related to those contracts. There wasn't as of last week, and there isn't now. The intention was to do it at an upcoming meeting, I believe is what the press release said. That is not this meeting. And I believe the mayor and other members of the administration are going to be having additional conversations with council members and with community leaders to move forward thoughtfully here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And for me, for the first one, Councilman Solomon, I understand, you know, that we need to get this Liberty State Park thing done, but you and I think the council president is going to be on this call or Zoom tomorrow, and I don't think that we should try to push this forward until the conversations are started. I mean, this is the only opportunity that we may have to really have this conversation and get this to a broader conversation with the entire community. So I really don't think that we should push this forward until the conversations are started. Tomorrow we have a conversation, and hopefully we can move then, and you know, hopefully after that we'll be able to either add it or figure out what's the next best step to do for the entire city. So I mean, that's just me. It's my only opinion. But I don't think we should move forward until the conversations are had. I know that your aide was working to put the meeting together. We all gave our times to be able to talk, and I think the conversation is tomorrow. So after that, let's circle back up and really have another conversation whether or not we're gonna, you know, move forward and put this on the agenda.
Okay. After the conversation, we'll know we put it forth. If he agrees to it, if not, then he still could put it forth, but then everybody has a right to vote. Okay.
Yeah,
but,
I'm happy to talk with everyone
okay.
after the call tomorrow, but yeah, if folks aren't comfortable with it, we can just obviously each vote in our own way.
Right.
So just to keep in mind that would be considered a late item, and we would have to add it to the agenda along with the waiving the 20 days. And if we are adding the fireworks resolution, I would just need to know that as well. So those three items would be the late items being added to the agenda.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
Motion to adjourn.
Sorry, can I just
So
get a
hold on. You
clarification?
guys move too quick. So I have a motion to adjourn
Hello?
at 6:55.
Sorry, I just want to.
Sean, Councilman Navarro has something to say.
Yep.
What was the resolution on the fireworks? Can you just clarify that for me?
The clarification was that we would aggressively enforce as we can.
That's all. Enforcement as we can. Yeah.
There's really nothing legislatively that we could do to change anything at this point.
It's just the state has prohibits a large class, by which I mean a large majority of commercially available fireworks in the United States. A few years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, the state acted to, I guess, lift the ban on a very narrow class, which would include things like sparklers, those little bang snaps, and things that you would just generally not regard as "quote unquote" dangerous. So what we're looking at bringing about here would just be simply a call for enforcement on both the setting off and the sale of things that are prohibited by state law.
Mm-hmm.
Enforcement of the sale or the use, or both?
That would be both.
Okay. So just for the record, and I shared this on with an email to the public safety leadership, Chief Kelly, Director Shea, Director Moody, Tawana Moody, as well as I think Chief Prosecutor Hudnut, and to the mayor himself. So as was already said, and I won't belabor the point, is just that we've all gotten the complaints about the fireworks. It's definitely an issue and a serious concern. I mean, they are dangerous, particularly the illegal ones, and the M80s and bottle rockets and Roman candles and all these things that are being shot off. And I've seen the videos like everyone else has on these things. But also implored the idea that, given where we are, particularly today in today's social unrest and the events of the past, that as it comes down to policing, had requested that the administration also advise all officers and reminding them in enforcement, and in particular this community response unit, that these are still misdemeanors. And I've spoken to them, and they've been and the chief and others who I've just had conversations with around this have been very forthright about that as well. And his office has, I should say, not the chief himself, but his office has been very forthright about letting me know that they recognize that situation and that these are misdemeanors, and but that they will look to enforce. I'll just say for the record, and if folks are out there watching this and taping this, that to spread the word that to folks that that they're illegal, and please don't shoot them off at people. Don't shoot them off at particularly the illegal ones, the illegal fireworks. And folks need to rein that stuff in and ask folks within the community and leaders in the community as well to talk to folks. And as one community leader told me, we should all be talking to folks about that and just having the conversation and letting them know that that stuff needs to be pulled back and reined in. So appreciate the work that our officers are doing in that regard. We know these are difficult times and challenging times, and I just wanted to put that on the record as well. But let's all work together in making sure that we have a safe, as Councilman Robinson said, a safe summer and safe lead up to July 4th.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank
May
you.
I have a motion to adjourn at 6:59 p.m.?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Councilperson Delay. May I have a second?
Second.
Who made the second? Councilperson Rivera?
Yes.
Sorry. All right, motion to adjourn at 6:59 p.m. by Councilperson Delay, seconded by Councilperson Rivera. All council members in attendance by acclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
we are out of here at 6:59 p.m. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen who are watching. And please remember to adhere to those public safety, the public laws, making sure you wear those masks when you're out and about. We're almost through this, but it's not yet done. So make sure you're practicing those safety protocols. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone. Take care.
Be well, everyone.